Hi everyone, my name's Hannah from Inspired Creations, and today I'm going to show you how to make a cute little cat and his mouse. If you want to see a picture of what we're going to do, it's here. So cute little cat. And if you'd like to have the kit list, then feel free to get in touch with me. So I don't need to add any CMC to here. If you do, then I would say it would probably be for this quantity that's on the list. So I've got about 130 grams here. For this quantity on a spoon, if you can add CMC on a little teaspoon, it's probably going to be about this much going in. Okay, so it's just the tip of a teaspoon, probably a generous pinch if you were thinking about salt, a generous pinch. And of course, the CMC is the firming agent, which helps us handle the paste nicely and also set the shape when we want, set the cat so that he doesn't droop whilst we're making him and as he's drying. So this quantity of paste, once you've warmed it up, we're actually going to divide this into 3 pieces, one slightly larger than the other 2. So if you just take a slightly larger bit and then divide the other one into 2 pieces, and those 2 smaller bits we're going to pop back into the bag because we don't need them just yet. They're going to be for the head and the arms, the limbs and so on. So the quantity we've actually pulled off, if I roll this into a ball, is about 4.5 centimeters diameter. And if you're working in inches, it's about 1.5 inches, just over. Okay, so that's the quantity of paste that we're using. To warm it up, give it a good old twist. So of course you can work alongside if you want, or if you feel like things are running away from you, just stop and then take a few little notes, and then you will have some time after to finish. Okay, so after each demo, you'll have a chance to have a go. Squeeze, so having twisted, and the twisting will combine the CMC and any colour that you've added in as well. Really squeeze to get the air out, but you're also warming it up. It's quite hot today, so it should possibly feel a bit sticky in your hands, and then tightly roll between your palms. And that tight rolling should allow you to have gain a crack-free ball. Okay, you might have to just move the ball around in your hand to keep it in shape. To start with, it looks a bit like a spinning top. So then you should get something that's nice and smooth. If you get cracks in there, you can rub the cracks and then go back to the rolling. That should get rid of them. If it doesn't, you have to go back to the beginning, twisting, squeezing, rolling. Okay, so this piece of paste we're going to roll into an elongated cone. The kitten has got a height to him, so I'm just going to hold this part of my hand on the side of the ball and just roll sideways. So I'm kind of rolling side to side rather than this way or with your fingers. We're using the palm, and we're going to get that. We don't want it too thin at the top. We still want a plump bottom as well, but he wants to be a decent height. So once that's rolled, it's going to come in at about 7 centimeters in inches, nearly 3. Okay, nearly 3 inches. So he's taller than the teddy bear if you've made that one with me. All right, so if you want to do that bit first, and then we'll get him standing up on a card, and then I'll show you the limbs again. My little cone now, I'm going to sit it upright on the surface now. If you've got a board, you can put it on a board. I'm just going to change the angle so you can see what I'm trying to do here. So I've got just a polystyrene dummy. So you could sit it on a plain board, that's absolutely fine. Or if you've got a polystyrene dummy, what that means is that you can actually push a kebab stick or a spaghetti stick all the way through to the bottom of the Oasis or dummy. And then when you come to transfer it onto the cake, you're going to have a bit of stick or support underneath the character, which can go into the cake, and it just helps it from wobbling off. Having said that, it's not necessary. Okay, And if you have got something like this that you're using, then it's advisable to pre-drill a hole in, so wherever you're going to be positioning the center of the body, get that hole drilled so it's bigger than it needs to be. That way, when you come to remove the character from the this dummy, it'll come out easily. Otherwise, you're going to be under a bit of stress trying to get it out, and it might break. Okay, sorry, just got polystyrene all over the place now. So we're just going to pop that onto our board or dummy, and then, like we did with the teddy bear, just press either side here and here to create an indent. So my fingers are quite low down, and they're just kind of, you could even use your thumb and finger from both hands just to create a little crease or indent in there. And that is a good socket for the cat's legs, the back legs. Then I'm going to, I've got a kebab stick, but you can use a spaghetti stick. This one's just a very thin spaghetti stick. And you can push this through and down. If you've got the oasis underneath, find the hole you've drilled, drop it down into the hole so it goes down to the bottom. Or if you've got a board, just push it all the way down to the bottom of the board. So this stick has to be all the way to at least the bottom of the body. If you're using a spaghetti stick, then just put your finger and thumb about 1.5 centimeters up. Use the thumbnail to help you break off the stick, or you might need to use a set of wire cutters to trim your support stick. So just to make the belly button, push in and then rock the spaghetti stick up and down to create a belly button. And now we can retrieve one of our other balls of paste. If you've got a larger ball, then pick that one out. Doesn't really matter, because whatever we don't use can go towards the head. You will definitely have enough for all the components. Let's change camera angle for you. Okay, move this out of the way. Now the back legs are bigger. If I share the picture with you, you'll be able to see what I mean. They're chunkier and shorter. These are narrower and longer. But that's not to say that they're probably about the same amount of paste for each one, maybe a little bit more for the back legs. So I'm just going to break off a piece of paste. I always like to measure out just one bit, just roughly make the leg, and then I know whether I've got the right amount or not. So here I want, for the back legs, I want kind of an elongated fattish cone. And if I hold that up against there, it actually looks far too big. So I'm going to take a little bit off there. Try again. I think that would be a better size. So we're going to roll 2 balls for the back legs. I think we'll match the size for the front legs actually. So these are about 2.5 centimeter diameter, 1 inch. Okay, so 4 balls, each the same size, 2.5 centimeter or 1 inch diameter. Just make 1 to the ruler and then measure the other 3 to what you've already made. If you find that you haven't got enough paste in this ball, don't worry, just make the front legs just a bit smaller. Just do it by eye though. It's very difficult to measure to the ruler and to a pair of scales as well, unless you've got those really 0.000 ones, the really lightweight ones. So put the 2 smaller balls to one side for a moment, and we're just going to concentrate on these larger ones. So when I've got a small piece of paste, to warm up, rather than trying to twist, which is actually quite difficult, I kind of squidge. It's like you're pinching the paste. And then So back to the squeezing and the rolling tight between your palms. So even though you've warmed this up once, if it's left on the side for a bit, you do need to re-warm it up again before you roll your shape. So into a ball, use the heel of your hand into a cone, so pressing down on one side to roll into a cone. And we're just going to tap it once to flatten. Now, if you've made the lion with me before, then it's similar to the back legs of the lion. The cat sat down, so the back legs will look shorter. So just 1 or 2 taps, just so it's not surrounded. And when you're looking at the shaping size, once it's a cone, it's about 4 centimetres, 1.5 centimetres. Made the back legs. Once you've made the back legs, let's put some glue into those indentations. And also, if you can put some glue down the front of his legs, now down the front of his tummy for his front legs. Now, of course, this is going to cover the belly button up, but his front legs are in the front. Let's have a look. Can you see? There. Okay. If you were making giraffe, I know it sounds bizarre, but it's actually made in a very similar way. The giraffe's legs are kind of mid-riff because he's tall. So you start his front legs about here. And an elephant's legs are done in the same way as this. So all the characters have similar shapes to them. So as I attach these, I'm going to put the fat end in first. Really, really weird. It looks like a chicken because he's going to have big front paws. Okay, we can flatten the ends of those as well, just to in readiness for the big paws. And just make sure you've got enough room here and here for his paws to go. We've definitely got enough room in there for his front legs. So he looks a bit weird. Nothing like a cat at the moment. So for the front legs, we're going to use those other 2 pieces of paste that we've used. And I'm just, again, going to just kind of, I don't even know what this is called, kind of pinching it really, rather than, you just don't want to flatten and fold it because that adds air. Roll really tight, so squeeze tight and then roll really tight between your palms. It should feel just a little bit sticky. Maybe there's a little bit of residue going on your hands, depending on the brand of sugar paste. But overall, it should feel comfortable to work with because you've got the CMC in. And then we're going to roll again against this part of your hand. You can see that it's really nice and flat. So just keep it in your palm. And then we're going to roll an elongated cone this time. And I can try that for size. Just again change the camera angle so you can see what I'm doing. So I've got a paw going under first, which is probably about the height of my finger. So that is about right. He's going to look a bit strange until he's got his paws on. So in terms of measurement, that is about 5 centimeters long, 2 inches, and about 1 centimeter to 1.5 centimeters in width. Okay, 5 centimeters long, 1.5 centimeters wide, 2 inches by 1/2 inch. And then we'll repeat that for the second one. We'll just try and match them roughly the same height. Sorry, same length. And then to attach them, we've already put our glue on. So hopefully this is tacky enough now because it's had a chance to start to dry and soak in. should be enough to hold these with a gap at the bottom here. It's a bit like a bunny rabbit now, doesn't it? Okay. Just use your finger to smooth off if you find that you've got crinkles and lumps and bumps where you're handling it. But the paws themselves are quite fat, so this should be about right. And with a cocktail stick, I've got two little markings in, just with a little press, and I'm kind of rocking round. They go up into the center. So if you hold your cocktail stick down on the outside and then simply rock and close, try not to poke the paste in the middle here. Just, I don't know, I don't even know why I put those in, but it just gives some more interest. You can see I've done it there. Carding. When you're ready, put a bit of glue on the stub ends of his back legs and the bottom of the two what look like rather short front legs at the moment. And we're going to move on to the white. Actually, I'm going to leave those for a bit longer because I want them to hold on rather large piece of paste. So I'm going to change my mind there. I'm going to do the head for the cat because that also needs a bit of time for the glue to kind of soak into the head part so the muzzle will go on. So if you can glue the stub ends of the legs, the bottoms of the front legs, and around the stick that's going to hold the head. Okay, and then find the other piece of glue. Now you probably won't need all of this, and you may have some left over, so you can just incorporate it all. Now the head on the cat's actually quite big. I mean, not silly big, but it is quite large. And again, when I'm working this out, I like to take a lump of the paste, get it into a rough ball. This is going to have an oval shape to it. So I'm then going to hold it up against the body just to get a bit of an idea as to whether or not it's going to be big enough. Now, when I'm looking at that, it looks bigger on computer, or it looks bigger on the camera, but I've got a muzzle going on as well. So if it looks a little bit small, it's not a problem. Okay, so having kind of measured that size out, I'll give you an idea of what it is. So as an oval shape, it's going to be, also let's do it as a ball, 3 1/4, it's just over 3 centimetre, and so 1 1/4 inch if you're working in inches. Warm it up, squeeze it and roll it into a crack-free ball. Modelling is all about getting clean lines, so clean shapes, no cracks, nice colours, smooth looking. So as a ball, I want to change it into a cone, so I'm just going to rest the palm of my hand against this part here. I call this a chicken drumstick. Roll once, twice, maybe a little bit on the end, so you get this oval shape or egg shape. And as a sideways oval, it's going to go onto the body. So it's wider on the side. And I'm also going to put it at an angle because he's looking down at the mouse. He's going, oh, cute. Yum, can eat that. We want to aim for the spaghetti stick, the support, to be right in the middle of the bottom of that ball. Okay, so even though it's at an angle, you don't move the support to one side or the other. It still stays in the center. Okay, so my spaghetti stick will have gone up and in the middle. And then if you've lost your shape, just give that a bit of an adjustment with your fingers. Check as well that you've got a similar amount of paste weight on the front as you have on the back, because if he's leaning backwards, when he dries, his head might change direction and his eyes will be looking up to the ceiling. If it's wrong, pull it off, tilt it slightly forward if it's leaning backwards, and reposition. So don't just kind of pull it into place, just pull it off and readjust. Okay, that's the back. That's the front, and this part of the leg won't show in a moment because there's a muzzle going on there. So if I show you the cat figure, what I want to do is get the ears on. Now, even though when you look at the tilt on your head, it's not as tilted as perhaps you think it should be, but by positioning the ears tilted, suddenly it looks like you've got a real shot, a real lean to the head, which is actually, and also you'd be doing the same. You kind of tilt the muzzle sideways as well. So the way I would do that is by, I start off with marking in, just support the head while you're doing this, but marking in a little kind of ear hole here. So make an indent with the cocktail stick and then rock up and down a bit like a gear stick, just opening it up a fraction. It's not as dramatic as when we do the teddy bear ears because these ones are quite small. And then having done that one down here, I'm going to come up. So instead of putting my I'm going to make, actually I'm going to come in about here. So that's the center. So we're off center on the other side. Okay. And that way, when his ears go on, it makes him look like he's more tilted. Probably see them. So that's the back. Can you see? One's up, not quite in the center. That's the center of his head. And then the other one is right down here, which makes him look like he's tilting more. And we're going to put some glue into that hole and into the other ear hole. And then it's really important now, we kind of look at the front of his head. Imagine if he was tilted where his muzzle would be. So I'm laying my brush across that area now and I'm gluing. Okay. And this part here really needs to soak in. So you don't want a huge amount, but you do need to work it in. And then we're going to go backwards. We're actually going to work on the legs while this is soaking in. It's really important that this goes off a little bit, starts to form a tacky glue rather than really slippery, otherwise the muzzle will just keep falling off. Okay, so glue in the ear holes and the muzzle area, and then if you go onto your white.
Excuse me. Excuse me.
Bless you.
Thank you.
We're going to make the legs, the feet now, and then we're going to move on to the muzzle and the ears. Okay, so the feet. Going to need 4 balls again. I need to do a bit of a judgment call on the size of the foot that I need. The front is likely to be the same size as the back, it's just it's more cone shaped. So I'm just going to have a little go. I mean, if you think about cats and kittens, they have big paws, don't they, when they're little? I think, anyway. Well, I'll tell you, Anne will be able to tell me that, because she's got cats. But I like mine to have big feet. So I'm just going to roughly form a cone shape and just have a look to see if that fits nicely, which it does. And then I'm going to go with that quantity for each foot. You could go a bit smaller if you want to, but this is about 2 centimeters, 2 centimeters, 3/4 of an inch. And then just match those ball sizes times 4. And if you don't want your kitten to have big feet, then don't make them as large. Probably like bigger than Malteser size, not quite gobstopper size. I'm going to make the back legs first. So again, you're going to pinch the paste so that it's becoming combined with any CMC or colour that you've got in there. Obviously this is white, but this just starts the warming up process. If you want to, you could twist it, squeeze it, that kind of gets the air out. Roll it really tight between your palms. Really pressure down with that. If you end up with a spaceship, it's okay because you can relax the pressure, but you just want every chance of getting the cracks and the air out. So as a ball, we're going to go into a cone first. So it's a fat cone or teardrop shape. Then we're going to tap it just once. Peel off your hand and we're going to mark in 2 paws. So I've got my cocktail stick at an angle to the top here, and I'm going to rock over to the back and come back. So that gives me 1 claw. Then leave a gap, come to the other side, press and rock. Now if I squeeze that just a little bit here and just stroke my finger, it's going to give us a little indentation. Yeah. And that's like the back of his foot, the underside of his foot, which you're going to see. And you could, if you wanted to, make little indents in here and make claws for him. Now, when I made that, it comes out at about 3 centimeters long, about just over 2 centimeter wide at the fattest point, width-wise 3/4 of an inch, just over an inch long. Okay, so I'll show you the second one as well. And if you feel they're a bit too big, you can always reduce the size. Into a ball, into a cone. This is looking a lot smaller. Might just swap. So elongated cone, tap it to flatten slightly. Position the cocktail stick off center. So it's holding at an angle on the top side and roll. Again, either side. Pop it in your finger and just rub from where the markings are down just a little bit to create a well. And we can pick those 2 up together, and with the claws uppermost, just press them a little bit. Be careful not to squidge the legs because they've already started drying. You might end up creasing them. But now all of a sudden he's got big feet and looks much better. They're more imperial mint shape. Okay, so we've already prepared the ball sizes for the front paws, but we don't know whether they're going to fit. So I'm just going to give that a go. I've got just my ball, and if I just make that into an oval shape, obviously I need to be able to fit 2 side by side. I think possibly these are a little bit on the large side, so I'm just going to pick a bit off there, and I've made it down to just under 2 centimetre. I think that's probably better. So this is more likely Malteser ball size. Yeah, that I'm probably a bit happier with a smaller size. We can always squidge them together and they can go in tight as well. So just under 2 centimetres. We've already glued underneath where they're underneath the front legs where they're going to go. And you wouldn't necessarily glue onto the board, especially if you're going to need to remove it from the board at some point. It's a good idea just perhaps put a bit of corn flour underneath or icing sugar just to stop it from sticking completely, and that way you can get it off, you can lever it off. And these types of models, you can make them months in advance and actually just store them in a box. So a cardboard box, not a tin, not plastic, unless it's not sealed. You need air around it to enable it to dry. Okay, and out of the sunlight as well so that it doesn't fade. So my ball of paste, I'm just going to use one finger now to roll once or twice. And I want to make a fat sausage. It's not going to be quite party sausage size, but it's a fat sausage or imperial mint size. And when I look at that as a guide, it's 2 centimetre wide on the widest side and about just under 1.5 centimetres the other way. So we'll do the other one as well. Oh. And so just a few rolls with one finger to make a little bit of an oval or imperial mint shape. Just check the sizes are roughly the same. And then with these ones, what we want to do is the same. We need to, I'm probably going to just press it once just to flatten. That way it's obvious we can just pick it up and turn it so you've got the narrower side ready for the claws. And again, we're going to mark it by holding the cocktail stick at an angle and rocking, come to the other side, so off center, do a second one, and you end, if you press it just a little bit more, you'll end up with claws. Do that again, so just press a little bit so you've got it, it's wider on the top, but it's going to sit down where you flattened it. That's how it's going to sit, but we've got this nice rounded edge which isn't as thick now that we can rock our cocktail stick. So it's much better instead of just pressing for you to position and rock. And these two now hopefully will sit comfortably in between his legs. Now if you find that they're a bit wide, we can just squish them a little bit together, get them in as a pair if you need. Move the I'm just going to brute force get them in. I'm going to do the muzzle next. Okay, this part here, the white. So you'll need a bit of white. And I'm going to, again, I've got to kind of do a size guide. I don't want this to be oversized, but I do want it to form part of the size of the head. So I'll start off with my ball, just kind of fashion it into an oval shape. Take a look to see how that might work on the body, it's on the head itself. It's quite big, but I think it might work. So I'm just going to, I might take just a little bit off because we've got a nose going on there as well. So just taking a small portion off. And then when we're looking at a size for you, I would suggest 2 centimetre ball, just over. Okay, 3/4 of an inch. So I'm just going to warm that up and we're going to make that into an oval shape. So into a ball, and then if we roll across the top of it once, twice maybe, just use your fingers to gently press in place, and then we can attach this. So when you put it on, support the back of the head with one of your, I'm left-handed, so you might want to do this the other way. Position the muzzle where you've glued. Turn it slightly so that the tilt is the same as the head, and then start to press in the center a little bit, press on the base a little bit, and then with your thumb supporting the back of the head around the outside. You want to make sure that this stays rounded, but it is stuck on more than just in the middle. And then when you look at it, just reshape it and turn it so that you've got the tilt in the same place as the way you've anticipated it with your ears. Okay, now when I show you this, it doesn't really look tilted, but it is. I'm just going to have a look from the side. I'm just going to narrow that slightly, and hopefully you can see that it is tilted a little bit. Could well be the angle actually of the camera that's stopping you from seeing that. I'll get that on first, and then I'll show you how to put the markings in for nose and mouth and so on. You can see here, it's at an angle. To mark the features, again, because we know we're going at an angle, make the nose not in the center, but kind of in where you've made your ear holes, in the middle. Use that as your guide. Push the stick in about ½ centimeter, and then run the stick around so you start to open up a funnel shape. With the cutting wheel, or if you haven't got a cutting wheel, you could use a knife for this. We're going to run a line. I like to use my big end of my cutting wheel. Just make sure that it rolls freely because you don't want it to stick. Support the back of the head, and again, your line needs to be tilted at an angle because your head is tilted as well. So bringing the line down, probably about 1.5 centimeters to where I'm going to want to create the mouth. I've just got to reopen my nose hole because that actually closed up a little bit with using the tool. You can then use the back of a paintbrush, or I've got my silk veining tool here, which will be enough. Anything with just kind of a blunt point on the end. I put a bit of corn flour in there. I need to support either side of my muzzle, and I'm going to go in at the bottom of that line I've just marked. And once my tool's in, support the bottom of the chin and pull down. Support the bottom of the chin because you don't want it to break out the bottom, but then you kind of press at the bottom here to create a point. So when he comes out, he's going, oh, look at that mouse. Let's just get that into camera shot for you. Whoops. Okay, so I can show you on a bit of paste what that looks like again, just to help you. Just warm this up. So this is just showing you how to mark the muzzle. You don't need to do this bit. So you start by finding where you want the nose. Use the cocktail stick to open that up. Then I'm going to change cameras. Once you've marked your nose hole, you can draw down the line. And then, oh, got the wrong tool. With the back of your paintbrush, push it in. And then you're going to support the bottom down with your finger and thumb here. And pull down. And as you do, pinch closed. And what you're getting is a little opening for his mouth. You're going to mark in the eyes, and then we'll know where the eyebrows go and where this patch is going to go. So either side of the nose holes here. So either side would be, you just want a little indentation, just enough so that you can put the black in. But you can see now as well it's tilting. So you put a little bit of glue into the nose hole and the eye holes. Be careful not to put too much in the eye holes because you don't want it to bleed once you've got your black in. And with your cutting wheel, the small end this time, we can mark in his eyebrows. Now, depending on which way you do this, he's either going to look angry, sad, worried, or kind of indifferent. So I like to put his eyebrows so that they are raised in the center. If you mark them so they're pointed in the center, so the other way around, he'll look angry. If you don't want him to look worried, you can just draw straight lines and then he kind of looks a little bit zoned out, but he's not scared or worried or angry. Eyebrows have got a lot to do with the expression. Now we know where his eyes are going to be, we can put that little patch in the middle here. So I'm just going to put a little bit of glue in the center between his eyes and make just a tiny, tiny little patch. Mine's triangular here. So I've just got a very, very small ball of paste, and this is kind of the start of making the ears really. Oops, it's similar process. So just take our little ball of paste, and that is not even 1/2 centimetre. Roll on one side to get it slightly pointed. And if you need a little bit of corn flour on your finger, press to flatten. You might have to lever it off with a knife, or just pick this little piece up. And the fat end, I'm just going to straighten off a fraction as well. And then very carefully, it's actually quite difficult to handle, if you just kind of release it onto the shape, onto the head, and then gently press it in place. So for the ears, 2 balls, and they're not as big as 1 centimetre in diameter, so they're quite small. They fit well within the 1 centimetre. It's probably 1/4 of an inch. And they are made as a cone. So the ball, nicely warmed up, into a cone. Press it a little bit, but not too flat at this stage. Do the other one. Ball, cone. Press a little bit, but not too much. As you pick it up, you can flatten it on this end because that's the end that's going to go onto his head. Put those down and then get yourself a tiny bit of white. So comparatively, it is weeny. It's a pip size. It's probably about 3 mil. I couldn't even measure that in an inch. But really, really small, you can see the difference. So if I take one of those ears, the tiniest amount of glue in the middle, take the little ball of white, roll it so you get the same cone shape, position that on top, and then with your back of your paintbrush, or this is one of those smile tools with a silk veining bit on the end, we can position that over the white and press it in, just flat a little bit, and then you've got yourself an ear. So I'll show you that again with the other one. Just the tiniest swish of glue in the middle. Roll a point into the ball. So if that's in your way, just move that out of the way and position that on top. It's very fiddly, this bit. And then press the back of your paintbrush in. So that gives you the inlay. Now you've already put glue, but you may decide to put a little bit more across the top of the ear holes. And then one by one, we can attach the ears. Okay, so I'm just going to hold that on. Just make sure that it's as secure as you possibly can, because this time we haven't got anything, we haven't got any kind of cone or anything. We're relying on the hole that's got the glue in to kind of suck it in a little bit. We can reshape these so they come to a point. You can tip the ear over a little bit. But now suddenly we're getting to something that looks like a cat. So for the nose, we're going to use, I quite like big noses. So if you don't, then you can make a slightly smaller one. Again, we can work out the size before. I'm going to go 3/4 centimetre on the ruler. And I don't know, it's about 1/4 inch. Get that good old warm up. Roll it into a ball and then make a point. Now this is, the ears, ideally, if we could, we'd make a point at the bottom, but it's very difficult to form them. So we make a point, and the pointy end is actually going to go into the nose hole, and it just means that if it's knocked, it's less likely to come out. So we take the pointy end, pop that in, and as I push gently down, because obviously I don't want to pull the muzzle off, I can just kind of squish it sideways so it becomes slightly wider. And that has got the tiniest little bit of white as a highlight. So if I just make a slight mark on his nose, it's to help take some of the glue, because you can't put too much on. If you've got a hole, it will soak into there and make it a little bit more tacky for you. When you're working with small pieces, so this will be the same as if you're creating the eyes, the black eyes. You want to take a slightly bigger piece of paste. Make that come into a point and pull the smallest amount off the end. If you can, roll it between your finger and thumb. Now, what I find sometimes is that you need to maybe put a little bit of, I've just rubbed my hands on the J cloth, just so I've got a little bit of damp on my hands, so that allows me to form it without it crumbling, because it's such a small piece. And if you find that it's not big enough, then once you've formed that shape, you can just take a little bit off using the cocktail stick, and that will be your piece that you can transfer onto the nose. Because the surface here is wetter, it will take onto the nose. Okay, it's very small, that bit. It's probably too small, so I'm going to redo that, make a slightly larger highlight so you can see it. Doesn't want to look like a spot. I'd say it's probably about 2 mil, and that's about the same size as you would have for your eyes in the black. Looks very scared, this cat, doesn't it? If I show you on the original picture, you see, just there. Just make a little indent with the back of your paintbrush, open it up a little bit. The cat's tails are fairly similar thickness all the way, and there's a possibility that it would have like a fluffy bit on the end, but it's entirely up to you. They do sometimes, you know, you could have it so it sits up onto the back. So I'm going to put a little bit of glue midway on his back, and then with my blue, and you can always shorten it. So if you find that you've got too long a towel or too fat a towel, get it to the right thickness, and then you can take a bit off if you need once you've made it. I'm going to start with a ball of paste. It's about 1.5 centimeters in thickness, in diameter, into my palm, flat hand. Just make sure it's warmed up before you do this, because it will show cracky. And with the flat part of my hand here, I'm going to roll and come back and roll, not with your fingers, with your palm. And when you think you've got the thickness you like, it's going to look like a worm. Then you can attach. So we're going to start, put a bit of glue in his tail hole. Might just do a bit more. Pop one end into that hole so it sticks a little bit. Drop the tail down and a change angle so you can see me a little bit better. Now left like this, it's going to be really fragile, but if I bring this up to here, just gently hold it in place. It's going to need a little bit more gluing perhaps because it's quite long. Just hold on to that while I get hold of my glue. I can visualize it making contact with the body slightly further up as well. You've got to bear in mind that gravity, you can't just suspend it in mid-air, but you can have parts of it not resting. But because we've just put the glue on, and you can only put it on when you attach the tail, just be mindful that it might move and you may have to go back to it and just adjust it. That's a big tail. It's a cartoon character, it doesn't have to look real. I've used 28 gauge wires. If you haven't got these, don't worry. You could actually, if you wanted to, you know, the sandwich tags, if you pull all the paper from around it, you've got a piece of metal inside. You could use them. I mean, they are not edible. That's the only thing. Okay, so you would need to suggest to someone that they remove that before serving. Equally, you'd have to tell them about the support stick that you've got in there, whether it's spaghetti or cocktail stick, kebab stick, because they're all possible choking hazards. But these wires, if you do the flowers, then you'll have this as one whole long pack, and I've cut the wires into 3. And those are then going to be cut again. Now, I would say that you probably, if you cut your piece of wire into 4, a length of wire into 4, but you need 6 pieces. I've got these in 3s and I'm going to cut them in half, so they might come out a bit short, but we'll see. Then if you've got a pair of wire cutters or a pair of scissors, don't use your sewing scissors because it'll possibly damage them. So I've got my 6 lengths of wire basically. If I'm looking at measurement, these are about 6.5 centimeters in length. And then I take my rolling pin or whatever else you've got that's got a similar curve, okay, and position them, just level them off a little bit, position them flat onto the rolling pin, and then wrap them around straight, and that will give you a curve to your whiskers. You need to do that before they go into the character, and they don't need glue, so they'll come out very easily. Now if you look at the picture, you can see I've got one in the middle that is backmost, and then 2 that are more front. So that's how we're going to position these, and it's the same with the mouse, except for the mouse has only got 2 whiskers, but purely because it's a bit over the top and his ones are shorter. So if you wanted to, that then would mean that the if you've got any spare wire, you can use that for the mouse. So I'm going to drop these in. We're going to start by doing the back ones. So one in there. Don't worry that this is overly curved at the moment, because it is very long. It depends what you want, because some cats are really whiskery, other cats not. So you can decide how much of this you cut off, but it's better to get them in first. So there's 2. So those are the back 2, and then we come slightly forward, so and down a bit. So this one's in the middle, the back one's in the middle. So pushing in, make it so they're curling down, and then you can do the same again. So do one, make the back one be the middle. You can push it in quite far. From a food safe point of view, you shouldn't stick wires into things that are going to be eaten. You could, at a push, use dental floss, but I'm not sure how that would actually, how you could poke that in. So he's got stupid long whiskers at the moment. He looks like Edward Scissorhands. So now, just making sure that they're in as far as I want them to be, I can clip them. So I'd probably decide to clip different lengths. We have a look at this again. They're similar length, but you could have the side ones longer than the, I don't know, you decide. So we'll just clip them. I'm going to have the top slightly shorter and this one slightly longer. So the middle back is the mid length, this one's slightly shorter, this one's slightly longer. This is what you want at the end of the day, and then try and match the trim. On the other side. Cute. pull off from the pink quantity a 1.5 centimetre, ½ inch ball. Keep that in a bag, and then the rest can be made into the body. I'll show you the mouse. Here he is. They just look like one of those sugar mouse mice, you know. I don't know what they're made of even. Do you know what I mean though? At Christmas. Is it at Christmas? They're not made out of marzipan, or you can buy them in the shops, but they're not made out of sugar paste. What are they made out of? Coconut or just icing sugar? I don't know. Anyway, so his body is a cone. So into a nice crack-free ball, roll your cone shape. So the fat end is going to be his tail end. This is where his nose is going to be. And all I want to do is curve him upwards. And when you curve him upwards, you can sit him with this bit flat down. So he's like that. His bottom, his legs are going to go there, his mouth and ears. So he sits up like that. If I show you that from the side. Like that. And to help me identify, if I press in a similar hole for his mouth as I did for the cat. So you've got his nose there. You want to come a little way, push in here, kind of drill down a little bit, support under here where his chin is, and pull and come out. You can pinch it closed a little bit. Okay, so now you can start to see that that would be his mouth, and that's where his nose is going to go. I'm going to put a hole right in the tip here with the cocktail stick. Drill and open up. That's where the cone for his nose is going to go. Okay, so this could definitely be the head on a mole.
Hannah, what did you use to make the mouth?
So on the top here, I'm just going to change the camera angle. I'm going to show you where the ears and where the eyes go. So we've got the mouth, the nose, then you come back to this part here. That's where the nose is going to go. So we need to step back just a little bit to put 2 eye dots in. And then come a little bit further directly back, almost like eyebrows, but I want to open out a socket for the ears. Okay, so we've gone mouth, nose, eyes, ear holes. And when you've done that, glue the nose hole. Try and get some glue in there if you can. You can use a finer paintbrush if you've got one. And then a little bit on the eyes and a little bit in where the ears are going to go. when you're ready, we can make the little paws, which are the same as the paws on the front legs of the cat, and the ears, which are slightly different from the cat. Okay, so with the paws, I would say you really don't, I mean, they're not huge. So I'd say probably about 3/4 of a ball, between 1/2 centimetre diameter and 3/4 of a ball. I can't even work that out on the inches. So I must get to grips with the inches. And then we're going to do 2 more balls for the ears, but they're going to be slightly smaller because you could, yeah, I don't want them as big. Just match those ball sizes as well. So you've got the 2 smaller balls for the ears, so you can put those to one side. The little feet, because you're only going to have the front feet, because the other 2 he's sitting on. So ball, roll once, twice, so it's a fat tic-tac shape. Take your cocktail stick, and as you did before, use the very narrow end, so the very tip of the stick, to rock in 2 little indentations. And if you press the side, they should open out a little bit. Okay, it's a bit of a weird shape. So I'll show you that again. So into a ball, 2 rolls to get a wide fat tic-tac shape, and then rock the tip of the cocktail stick in 2 places to make ridges, and simply hold either side of where you've marked the ridge and just press it a little bit, and that'll make the claws open up. Now, if you want, you can just simply stick them on, but I'm going to make 2 little indents with the cocktail sticks. This is the mouth here, so below where the front legs are going to go, almost as little shelves for the feet to rest on. They're not, it just allows me to put a little bit more glue in, and you could, if you wanted to, you can wait for that to go off a fraction before you actually stick on your. Now it does look like a mole climbing out of a hole. I'll just show you that from the side. It's a bit weird because it looks like he's got hands coming out of his chin. And then she drops it. Once the ears go on, it'll make more sense. So with the ears, we've got those 2 balls that we made before. We need to warm them up again, just so they're crack free. So into a ball. And then if you take the back end of your paintbrush, we want to kind of press in to the center to make an indent, and depending on how big the back of your paintbrush is, you may need to hollow it out a little bit more. We don't want to go through to the back, but we want to make a mouse ear. So if it's a big fat back of a paintbrush, or you've got a fat back of a paintbrush, use that. If not, you can simply press and roll round. I'm doing it quite lightly, and then I'll just, if I press that a little bit more, it'll open up. So I've got one here. Do the same with the second one. So pressing in the middle to get the start of the indent. You can press around there a little bit more And then when you get a bit more confident, you can kind of press against the sides to hollow it out a fraction. And we've already put glue on the holes for the ears, so we can sit those on. I feel like I want to put just a little bit more glue across the holes. When you sit them on, you can use the paintbrush again to press down where the hole is, and that should push some of the paste into the hole. And then your ears should stay. And now it makes sense. It looks like we've got a mouse. I'm using about 1/2 centimetre diameter ball of white for the nose into a nice crack-free ball like we did for the cat. Make it into a cone shape. Pointed end goes in to the glued nose hole. Doesn't have to be that big. He's got whiskers the same as the cat, they're just not as long. So I'm just going to do the tail. It's a thin worm, same as we did the cat, rolling with your palm. You can make that come to a bit of a point. I'm not going to keep it that long. I feel like I want to shorten that, so I'm just going to take a little bit off the end. If you make that come into a bit of a point on the end that's going to go into the body, you've already, once you've made a tail hole, you've got something to push in. So decide where your tail's going to go. Light your nose hole, open it out. And take a little bit of glue in there. And then once you've positioned your mouse where it's going to stay, you can pop your tail on. And I'm going to cheat with my eyes today. I've got some little Sugar Pals 2mm, they're like blackberry pips, but smaller. And if you pick 2 of those that are the same size, you've already glued your eyes. So you should be able to get those attached. So that's your little mouse. And of course we've got the cat to do as well there. So just be careful if you're pulling out the pieces of black paste yourself. When you've made the balls the same size, just tap them with your finger. You should have enough grease on your finger to pick up the ball. And then when you come to the character, press on and then try and avoid fiddling, because sometimes if you've got too much glue, it can bleed. So here's my little cat. And I'm going to sit the mouse all in there and have the tail coming over. I think they're friends. And I've just got to put some whiskers in now. Let's think twice about how we're going to put this in. I think I'm going to probably sit it in. tail's dropped off, but I'm not too worried. We'll sort that out in a minute. So you'll only want very, very small lengths for the whiskers. You could put 2 or 3 depending on how you feel. Level those off. And if you feel like you want more of a sharp curl, then you can use the side of your paintbrush to curl them. You can always open it up if they're too curved. And they're ready to go in. You can curve them by hand as well. And just trim them with the wire cutters if they're too long. There's your little cat and mouse. Trying to spin him round, but I'm crushing him. Okay, so hopefully you enjoyed today's class, the cat and mouse. And if you have any questions or you'd like the kit list, contact me on hannah@inspiredcreations.uk.com, or you can visit the website, just Google Inspired Creations Surrey School of Sugarcraft. Look forward to seeing you again. Bye bye for now.